Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am here again with another Gather Creator Spotlight video. This is Tracy, and I am the founder of the Gather community. And I'm here today with the fabulous Kelly Loyd. Kelly is going to tell us all about her, but I will tell you before she gets a chance how amazing I think she is. We have so many things in common, right? We really love to focus on strategy, on skills, on big picture, and then the small picture as it relates to that. So many good things. And so I'm going to let her talk about herself and introduce herself, but I just want to tell you how much I love her and how much we are like this in our thoughts and actions. So I just love it. Kelly, welcome to the party. Thank you so much for being here. Tell our community a little bit about your story, your origin, like how did you get here? What do you do? What do you love to do?
Sure. Okay. So I am a corporate drone recovering, and I spent 35 plus years in the corporate world. I worked for corporations that you've probably heard of, like Sony Computer Entertainment America, which for those who aren't familiar with that name, you may know the name PlayStation. I worked for Damon International. I worked for, I worked on special assignment to Kmart, and I worked for corporations you probably haven't heard of. They're very specialized. Like Damon is for photographers, professional photographers. They make bags, equipment, things like that. I've also worked for government, local government, and I've also worked for small businesses and very tiny corporations. So I've kind of run the gamut through my career. The thing that's always been the same is that I've challenged the assumptions that have been made, and I've tried to make recommendations for improvement. And a lot of that comes from my personal philosophy, which is wherever I work or whoever I'm working with, I own the company. Now, they may not pay me like I own the company, but in my mind, that's how I operate. So every paperclip, that's mine. You know, every expenditure, that's mine. And so with that philosophy in mind, I've always tried to look at ways to improve, make things more efficient, save money, all that sort of thing. Yeah. One of the things that I learned with working for major corporations is that they're not very agile. I do enjoy working for them, especially in the startup mode when everything's fresh and new and you put on lots of hats. But small businesses and solopreneurs are very agile. They're very flexible. When they learn something that they can do, they can implement it that day or very quickly, which means they get to see changes happen really quickly. They get to really reap the benefits right away. Yeah. So that is part of what led me to where I am today, which is really focusing on small businesses and entrepreneurs and helping them use the same kind of tools that I used in my corporate life, but they are made, I've created them for small businesses so that you get the right information without having to spend hours and days poring over your books or looking at your inventory or your gross receipts to get the answers that you need, because you don't have time for that. You wear a lot of hats, and you know, you want the information that you need quickly and so that you can react.
So that must have been a huge adjustment to go from corporate. That I remember talking about smaller companies are more agile and bigger companies move more slowly. And, you know, working in corporate facilities, we were always challenged with combining companies for mergers and things like that. And looking at after it happened a few times, even me in my role, I was able to see, well, this company clearly like they say it's a merger, but this company really is acquiring this company, and you can see why, right? The decisions that are made, the decisions, what different things were, how money was being spent versus one company versus the other. Usually the one who had kind of a much more kind of average level finish in their lobby was buying the one who had the super fancy lobby because their priorities were different. Very interesting. And also obviously working for a small consulting firm at large companies, knowing how like we came in being the small and able to shift on a dime to help the company who was really struggling because they didn't have that agility. So really interesting. So how long ago did you move to working for yourself and helping entrepreneurs?
Well, I had actually owned a business with my then husband 20 years ago. And that was interesting because I got firsthand knowledge really quickly of some of the differences between corporate requirements and small businesses. It's kind of like jumping into the deep end and not knowing how to swim, and realizing that some of the tools just didn't work. You know, it's like nobody remembers Peachtree accounting anymore, but everyone touted that as as the be all end all and the thing that you needed. Well, Peachtree is made for corporations. It was never made for small business. And the reason that QuickBooks and Xero have taken over the accounting space so rapidly is because they recognized a need and they filled it. Right. But those were the types of things that you start to understand really, really quickly when faced with it, you know. But I did, despite having a background and knowing on paper all the steps that maybe somebody needed, it was absolutely a plunge into the unknown, you know, being in my own small business at that time.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because I do remember Peachtree, and I don't really know why I remember it. But it goes back to all of us that are in business understanding what need it is that we're filling. And Peachtree, you know, clearly had the need that they were filling. People thought it would just translate, and really there was a better way to. And so when you're helping entrepreneurs, I would imagine that whether it's someone who's been in business for 10 years versus someone who's just starting, there's also different ways of doing things, even if they're still small.
Absolutely. And that's another thing that's really important to recognize. And you pointed out with the lobby decorations, a lot of times people in small businesses think that to compete with the big boys, they need to give the appearance of being, the big hat, no cattle, basically. And especially in this era, we don't need to do that at all. That's not a requirement. You don't and you should not spend money that you don't have. And that's actually one of the big precepts that I teach. And it's all about cash flow. You know, if you don't have cash flow, it doesn't matter how much money you earn. Well, I've said this before, it's not how much you earn, it's how much you keep. But in the case of starting up your business, you want to squeeze every penny that you can. And having sufficient cash flow is the difference between being in business and staying in business.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I would imagine there's a lot of people out there with this past year that we've experienced who are feeling that very acutely. I won't say that I would be excluded from that group at all. You know, someone who has a physical space that's been dark for over a year with expenses continuing to roll, it's been very challenging. And, you know, I know that I'm not alone. And you don't have to have a brick and mortar to have felt the impacts of this last year, which doesn't mean that your business didn't go great. It just means that it was different. And
it was
definitely
very
not what we
different.
expected.
And being able to flex and look at what your options are, and possibly something that might have been a minor source of cash coming through the door might have taken up a much larger proportion of your income coming in. Or in your case, you start a new stream of income,
Right.
and you nurture that and build it into a wonderful success.
Right. Right. Well, and that's the goal, right? Is to be, like we were saying, to be flexible, to be agile, and be able to make a shift in a new direction when the direction you're going ends in a cliff.
Yes, exactly.
Woo.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you were able to, as you said, your physical space went dark, but you were able to manage the challenge. And here we are, and now it looks like Gather is going to open its doors again. And so,
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully.
Yeah.
That's actually, we just rescheduled to hear a little bit, because that's where I was down there talking to someone about hosting some events in the space. So it's always an exciting conversation. And I know that we always knew that when we came back in person, that it would happen slowly and gradually, because humans are human, and no one really knows, there's no right and wrong answer at this point. It's too gray, and it's hard to figure out how to move forward. So it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting time right now. But I want to talk about you. So we don't want to talk about me.
Okay, sorry, we can talk for days. So
I know we would. So so you mentioned in your descriptions the idea of keeping what you make, right? You
Right.
don't want to just earn it, you want to keep it. So tell people about the different kinds of workshops and courses that you're doing, because I know You Earned It Now Keep It is one of them, but there's others too. So let's touch on those.
Sure. So You Earned It Now Keep It. It starts with a free webinar, and then there's a 4-week program that follows that. And that is an opportunity to learn some basics about keeping money in your pocket, keeping some for reserves, and being able to pay yourself in a sustainable way. Also, and eventually being able to make plans to grow a team, do all those sorts of things. So that is super foundational for any business, large or small, is to understand ways, strategies, and some simple things that you can do to keep the money from coming in the back door and then immediately flowing right back out coming in the front door and flowing out the back door.
Right.
So that's one. The other that I'm also teaching next month is called Scale for Success. And that's for people who are a little bit further along in their journey, and they're looking to move to the next level, whatever that might be. So the goal there is to take to do a deeper dive, to be able to actually learn how to recognize when it's time to add somebody new, how to afford that person. Should you have an employee or should you outsource? And the hint is outsource. When you're a small business or an entrepreneur, you need flexibility, and honestly, the HR requirements that you need to fulfill are
So giant.
Exactly. It's not something else that you would choose to take on. So
so speaking of the whole large corporation thing, right? Large corporations make HR mistakes all the time because it's so complicated, and they have teams of HR professionals. So if that's not your profession,
yes, it's not something.
Yeah, maybe not take that on.
Do not take that on. For people who are moving up the scale and they're ready to take on full-time employees, which is no one who has a micro business. Okay. But when you get up to, where you're thinking of adding 30 people or more, you absolutely need your own HR person. Right. And I recommend outsourcing your
that, right?
HR
Yes.
and letting somebody else handle the nuts and bolts. Among other things, they can typically, those companies that do outsourced HR can offer your employees benefits
Right.
and far more than you could as an individual. And there are just a lot of advantages. But the bottom
and a lot of
line,
people don't even know that those companies exist.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the bottom line is HR is not one of the hats you should be wearing. You want to outsource your HR. But again, we have talked about this before, Tracy and I. You want to also consider how many hours do you want to work in your business? You want to consider and think about all the other things that are taking up parts of your time. Think about where you are in the arc of your career. Sometimes 60 hours is fine, and that's great. Sometimes it's, in fact, most of my clients, it's closer to 30 hours that they want to actively work on their business.
Right.
And it's important to keep that in mind when you're looking at what you want to do. And the next thing that you want to look at is how to take yourself out of the picture. And we've talked about that before. Every person at some point in time will need to be out of their business for a period of time. It could be a vacation to Italy, like some of us might be taking.
Hoping for, not planned.
But it could be an illness. It could be taking care of aging parents or small children where you simply have too many demands on your time. You need to be able to have a plan and a team that's going to be able to support your business and keep the cash flowing when you are not actively involved in your business, or when you're very minimally involved in your business. So that's what Scale for Success is about. It's first of all being able to grow your business, but also figuring out that plan so that you feel like you know what to do when there's an interruption in your ability to handle the nuts and bolts of your business.
Right. Yeah. In fact, I was speaking with someone today and they were talking about, this thing they're trying to create will be the thing that they do for the next 10 years. And at that point, it'll be done. And I was just like, wow, like that's an interesting, like, I wasn't in that place at that moment, right? So to hear her say, I'm looking for a place where I can create this thing that will sustain me for the next 10 years and then I will end it. And so to have an end plan for a business that doesn't even exist yet was very interesting to hear from a person outside of our conversations.
Yes, right.
And I was really kind of excited for her to be able to see not only that she really wants to start it, but the whole picture of what it means for her now, what it's going to mean for her in 5 years, and in 10 years she knows that that's no longer going to be the thing that's right for her lifestyle. And I wasn't sure if she has children or what any of that is, or if maybe her partner will be retiring, or there's so many different things. But to look at that down the road picture, and so not only looking at how many hours we're working now, but how many hours do we want to be working in 5 years and in 10 years, and structuring the business, and like you said, the exit plan and all of that accordingly.
Right. And something we talked about yesterday also was your business plan doesn't necessarily mean work or vacation.
Right.
You can structure it depending on your business. If you're a trucking firm, you might have different requirements than if you're the face of your company, like we both are. But in the age of the internet, there are so many opportunities that are available to you that might not be available even 10 years ago. So that's another conversation.
Have laptop will travel. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Well, excellent. So, okay. So we talked, so basically you're talking about your first course, basically maybe not leading to the next course per se, but over time, right? That the business gets to a certain point.
I like having people anywhere along their entrepreneurial journey. But having somebody who's starting out and then starts to implement these things and starting to see that, oh, wait, this is going, this can really work for me. And I'm understanding what gears, what levers to push and what I need to do. And then moving from there on to being able to scale their business and create that next level of growth it's wonderful for me to be able to see that progression. Yeah.
So fun. Love it. Love it. All right. So you started to say like next month, but this isn't going to be live until like a little bit.
Yeah, I do. You will see either, well, I have 3 offerings at the moment. One is goal setting to goal getting. I offer that quarterly, every quarter. You earned it, now keep it, and scaling for success are actually I offer each month. We're ramping that up now, which is why I said this month, next month. So, but after that, it'll be monthly that either one of those classes will be offered.
Perfect. And so it's easily repeatable too, for people who are like, okay, I did my 4 weeks, but I wasn't really like understanding that first week, so I better do it again. I love
sometimes that happens.
Repeatable course.
You might take, in fact, I've had this when I've done classes too, for my own benefit. I'm absorbing and taking notes, but there's so much information that it's like taking it over again helps to, it's like I get that second layer. Now I've got, I've implemented the first group of changes. Now I want to come back and do it again.
And there's also that accountability of being in the course at the time. And, we always know that we get what we're supposed to get at the time we get it.
Yes, so true. And you mentioned accountability, and that's a huge part. In fact, when we were talking about goals in particular, but with all my classes, I think accountability and support are paramount to you being able to actually be successful, because no matter what you learn and what you absorb up here, you have competing priorities. So having somebody to kind of help you keep a narrow perspective on the things that are going to benefit you the most and move you closer to your goals makes an infinite amount of difference in your ability to be successful.
Yeah, so true, so true, so true. All right, well, awesome. So, and I know, so your business is called Informed CEO. You've got a great Informed Business Builders community on Facebook. You're heavily involved in our Gather community, so we know people can find you there. Did I leave anything out?
No, I don't think so. That sounds like you've
all about
covered
you.
all. That's right. You covered all the important parts.
Yeah, well, and the easiest thing to do with any of our Gather community creators and contributors is to be here in the Gather community and just be watching for what's going on. Be in the conversations, because you never know what day something's going to come up that is the thing that you needed to hear in order to move yourself forward that next step, or to get yourself out of your own way, or to just remember that, we're all in this together. And if we're having a bad day, you know what? A, you're not the only one. B, it's totally normal. And C, it won't last forever.
Yes, all of that.
And if we're together, it's always a lot easier to navigate.
Exactly true. Exactly. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so thrilled that you were here today. Thank you so much for being a part of our community, one of our creators. You're such a gift to me to be in our community. I'm just so happy you're here. And we will see you again soon.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I always love our time together.
Same here. Same here. Okay. Thank you. Mwah. Okay. I can't stop the thing from my mouse because it broke. So hold on. I'm going to have to edit this out.